Welcome to the FloMarching Studios in Austin, Texas for Taking the Field. I'm Emily Tannert-Patterson, and I'm joined this week in the studio by Daniel Montoya. Daniel, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Emily.
Tell the folks at home a little bit about yourself.
Well, I live here in Austin. I make my living as a composer, arranger, marching band designer, drum corps designer, and dad.
So can we expect some more dad jokes from you today?
I was making dad jokes before I was a dad, so I couldn't turn them off if I tried.
Excellent. And I am also a percussion educator and arranger here in the Austin area. It'll be lots of fun to talk drum corps with you today, Daniel.
I hope so. Lots of chugga to speak, a lot of drums and whatnot, I'm sure. We'll mention the horns and guard too.
Occasionally. All right, Daniel. So last night we had the iconic Murfreesboro Masters of the Summer Music Games show.
Yeah, it's a big show. It's the biggest show after we had San Antonio where all the corps meet together. And then this is, tonight will be the last time that all the corps meet. So last night the top 8 got together and they just duked it out in Tennessee. It was a big crowd. Drum corps not dead. So good for all of those people.
All right, let's take a look at these scores from last night, the Masters of the Summer Music Games. Santa Clara Vanguard solidifying that first place hold they have there, Daniel.
Yeah, that their show Babylon, it's visually exciting, it's musically exciting. The return of Michael Gaines has invigorated that corps who has already been on a level of improvement these last few years, and it just looks like that was the missing ingredient to take them, well, to where they want to go.
Is Babylon where they want to go?
Oh, maybe, yes.
We'll see.
For the purposes of this conversation, it is.
All right. So Blue Devils coming in second, Blue Coats just barely behind them in third. We're going to talk more about that race a little bit later in the show. Carolina Crown solidly in fourth, Cavaliers in fifth, Crusaders, small distance between them and the Cavaliers still. Cadets in seventh, Blue Knights, and then hometown favorite Music City and last week's FloMarching fan favorite Music City solidly in there at a 73. Very respectable score, Daniel, for a new to world class corps at this point in the season.
Absolutely. Music City is full steam ahead. Their show is off the rails. That conductor is leading the train right into world class. They're letting everyone know the show is hell on wheels, and so is the drum corps.
Well done, sir. All right. For everyone who doesn't know, Music City's doing a train show. So that was.
Are they?
Really?
What are the odds?
All right. All right. Let's take a look at the top 15 rankings. So DCI does this by averaging the last 3 scores. You can see the most recent score for each drum corps in the far right column. We've already run down those top 7. So let's talk about that race for 8 through 11. Man, Mandarin's as high as 10th right now, Daniel, and Phantom Regiment sitting 11th. Look at how that group is still mixing it up.
Yeah, it's crazy. Just like we talked about with Music City, Mandarins, while not new to world class, this is the first time that they have been solidly in the top 10, really, when you look about it. Sometimes they're up above Blue Stars and Blue Knights, and sometimes, based on the night, they go back and forth. So it'll be really interesting to see how this corps finishes out this season with their show. They've got a great team of designers, obviously very talented with their performers, and it's going to be fun to see where they end up. Finals isn't a lock just yet, but it looks like they've got their eyes on the prize and they're going for it.
Excellent. And then, of course, as in every year, it's the race to see who's going to be in finals. It seems like Crossman has almost locked down that 12th place spot, but you really can't count out Spirit of Atlanta Academy and the Colts. What do you see interesting there in 12 through 15, Daniel?
Well, I think that we have a lot of stories that are really good in DCI, and one of them is the resurgence of Spirit of Atlanta. A few years ago, they had some issues where they had to have a shortened tour, and now they're knocking on the door for 12th. Seems like on any day they might be ranked 12th. They might not be. The Academy, who has been a finalist before, is creeping up there, and the Colts is also another resurgent corps of these last few years. So we have a lot of these corps that are coming back to us and getting really into that battle for 12th. So that 12th place battle is going to be very exciting. Probably will not be decided until Friday night rather, of semifinals.
Yep, that final week, because as we know, anything can happen between here and there, and it's all a matter of who puts on the last polish and sparkle.
That's right, clean it up.
So today, Daniel, and we'll look at tonight's schedule in a few minutes, but today is the last time we get to see all of these corps in one place, because what happens next week in Allentown?
Well, it's a 2-day event. We have half of the corps on one day, same judging panel, next half of the corps on the same next day. And the scores are compared, not directly head-to-head, but as close as you can get without them being a head-to-head. But after tonight, you're right, we don't see them again until Thursday night when everyone's thrown into the big oil drum.
With all the open class scores in the mix, too.
Absolutely, and we can't leave out the open class scores when you have the Vanguard Cadets, Blue Devils B. Those scores are always in the mix for knocking on the door for finals. So you add them in, and it gets really exciting to see not only who's going to make finals, but who's going to make the cut for semifinals as well.
Yeah, so speaking of knocking on the door of finals, let's take a look at Crossman's most recent scores so we can see where they've improved. So visual, 25.1, GE, 33.3. That's always the largest component of everyone's score. Music, 24.85. Where, knowing that core, where have they improved that is putting them a little bit more solidly in that 12th place spot?
Well, we like to think that we have some of the best musicians here in Texas, and Crossman's right in the heart of it, pulling from all those kids in this state. And they've put a staff together now that is harnessing their musical ability, and that has always kept them in the mix. And now that's getting a little bit stronger year by year. But it's also the visual component that they're adding in with the props and the design and their outstanding killer uniforms. Like, just what they're putting together is finally putting it in place. So now it's just a battle of, like, everyone else is putting it in place and they're figuring it out. But I think finally matching up to the level of the musicianship is the visual quality of the program.
Yeah, absolutely. And then those two things feed that GE score. So the whole thing just pushes it up.
Audio-visual coordination, that's what you got to get.
All right, well, as we mentioned earlier, the race is on for second place. Blue versus blue, Blue Coats and Blue Devils. We have a little highlight reel, Daniel, before we start breaking down scores of the Blue Coats. Let's take a look. So we've been talking all season, Daniel. There are just so many elements in that show. I mean, it seems like kind of Blue Coats are continuing to introduce new flavors to the DCI pantheon.
Who would have thought, let's just put giant, oversized, neon yellow chairs on a field and see what happens. And it's amazing what they're doing with it visually and then how they're matching with it musically, and that wonderful virtuoso vocalist solo. Just, they put it all together. It's great.
And how old is she?
17, 18. I came into her knowing her from the singer at Union High School. I'm not sure if she just graduated or is about to graduate, but I hope they stick around with her because she's a gem.
I wouldn't be surprised to see some future shows wrapped around that particular vocalist.
Or she'll be on stage somewhere.
On
New York.
Broadway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's take a look at Blue Coats and Blue Devils' most recent scores from last night. These are Masters of the Summer Music Games from Murfreesboro. This is a breakdown of the recap. So we can see the separation here is just so almost infinitesimal, 0.15. BD edged out in visual, Blue Coats edging out in GE. That's a little bit of a surprise, Daniel. Blue Devils are kind of known as the GE masters.
Yeah, but they've got some of the greatest designers who have been together for decades almost. And so the thing about the Blue Devils, if it doesn't work, they'll change it and fix it. And so if it didn't work on Saturday, chances are on Monday they've figured something else to do. So I wouldn't take this loss too heavy because I'm sure they're in their mad scientist rooms figuring out what the next big, great Blue Devils moment's going to be. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, this could be as simple as, you know, they didn't have a great rehearsal yesterday, and so the show didn't hit. But you know, again, as we said, there's a lot of different elements in the Blue Coat show, and that always helps your GE number.
Absolutely. The difference in the score is so small. They're basically saying on any given night the show results could be completely different.
Well, let's take a really quick look at tonight's schedule so that we can let the viewers at home know everyone that we're going to get to see. So we're going to start out with a couple sound sport groups. First, we have Sonus Brass Theater and Impact, Carolina Gold, and Atlanta CV. So a couple of the all-age corps there. Then we get into world-class Jersey Surf, Pioneer, Seattle Crusades, Genesis, Music City, last week's fan favorite, Oregon Crusaders, and then an intermission.
Yep, it's going to be fun to see how that group comes together. We do have that mix of the bottom 18 kind of cores going together. So it's going to be fun to see how they change some things and refine and clean, because we haven't seen some of these cores in a few days.
So followed by Troopers, Pacific Crest, Scouts Academy, Colts, Spirit of Atlanta, Mandarins, Crossman, Phantom, final intermission, and then that big night block, Daniel. Cadets, Blue Knights, Blue Stars, Crusaders, Crown, Cavies, Blue Devils, Santa Clara Vanguard, and last but not least, the Blue Coats. And then, of course, Taking the Field will be live after the scores for more analysis. I believe we may also be with you for both intermissions. So lots of Taking the Field today, lots of hopefully some more fun train jokes.
It depends how the show goes, you know. I will choose to make more train jokes. You just got to move me, conduct that train.
All right, thanks, Daniel. All right, so we want to remind folks that Music City was last week's fan favorite. It is up to you to select the new fan favorite. Go to FloMarching.com. The poll is open. In just a couple of minutes here, we'll be taking your votes all day long. Last week we had 37,000 people, Daniel, vote in the fan favorite poll. I would love to see that number up above 40,000 this week. Who do you think is going to be the fan favorite?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot. I'm going to pick the Homer vote just because I don't want to make the city of Atlanta or the state of Georgia mad. I bet Spirit of Atlanta wins the fan vote. Prove me right.
Well, I don't know. All the Spirit fans are going to be at the show, so we'll have to see if you're right, Daniel. All right, folks, we hope you enjoy today's massive show, the Southeastern Championship, coming live to you from Atlanta. We take you now to the field.